From the WBS, we create a network diagram. A network diagram is a scheduling tool developed from the work breakdown structures. It shows the interdependence of project tasks and deliverables and determines the project duration at the end. It will determine the float or slack, or the amount by which a project can be delayed without delaying basically the whole project. It determines the project's critical path, which is the longest duration through the network diagram, and determines the shortest time to complete the project. By creating a critical path-centric network diagram, it will expose for us the risks that are associated with the project. The first step is to come up with the different WBS elements, and once you've identified the WBS element, identify their task identifiers. Here's an example table where we have task identifiers. The title of the WBS element, typically we call it task, but that will be deliverables based. So it could be deliverable 2, deliverable 3. And then the next step we will do is, once we have laid out the table, we need 4 columns, by the way, we will now identify the predecessor of the previous task. So when you pause for a moment and think about it, what we're going to do here is we will try to understand which task must happen before the next task can begin. That's what we mean by interdependency between tasks. So let's take a look at this example where task identifier A and B do not have predecessors, which is very common in projects where two things can be started without dependency on other tracks. So in this case, both can begin and they both don't have predecessors. But upon analysis of task identifier C, we notice that it has a predecessor for whatever reason, maybe an approval, maybe I need that before I get it started, predecessor A. And you just move on through the rest of the example as you see here. After you've identified the interdependencies, and sometimes it takes more than one pass to do this, you will now make a task duration estimate. You will sit there and you will try to estimate the duration of each task. So for example, in the case of this, in the example in front of us, task A needs 5 days, task B needs 4 days, task C is 4 days, and we move on through the list. A network diagram must always move from the left to the right, and logically, the task should be laid as it passes through time at the start of the project, which is at the leftmost side of the diagram, and ends to the rightmost side of the diagram. The diagram doesn't go down or go up because timelines do not go up or down. They just go from left to right. And so what I want you to do is I want you to take each node of the network diagram, we will lay it out in front of us, and we will put in there the following labels. First, I want you to put the task identifier, in this case it's A, and then B, C, D, and lay it out logically according to what your table said before. If you look at your table before, it says A and B can begin without any predecessors. Therefore, from the start node, and you should always have a start node and an end node. Remember that rule. You'll always have a start box and an end box, right? And so as the table says, A and B don't have predecessors, so logically both can start at the same time, and therefore that's why it's drawn the way it is. And if you look at tasks C, D, and E, it indicates that these nodes can begin, C can begin after A has started, and D can begin after B has started, and E can begin after B has started. So we draw the boxes right there. Then we move on by putting on the rest of the diagram as described. In this case, F begins after C, G begins after D, H begins after E, and J begins after E. However, I cannot begin until both F, G, and H are finished. And therefore, logically, look at the arrows and see how the arrows have to go to I, and then I over one more arrow onto the end of the project. We then need to put right below the task identifier, the duration estimate. So maybe we had a discussion with our engineers or discussion with other subject matter experts, and they told us that these tasks will take X number of days to finish. In this example, A is 5, B is 4, C is 4, etc., etc.